A recent Penn Wharton study stated that the U.S. can't continue to kick the can down the road on the nation's growing debt crisis. According to the study by authors Jagadish Gokhale and Kent Smetters, the U.S. has a 2-decade window within which to implement corrective measures, or no amount of increased taxes or reduced spending will be enough to prevent the U.S. government from defaulting on its debt. This is a stark warning to politicians and economists who have previously claimed that the federal government can continue to kick the can down the road on resolving its long-term fiscal shortfalls. Since the government can't technically default on its debt, the study anticipates that the Fed would likely resort exclusively to printing money in order to meet their financial obligations. This would lead to a level of inflation that would have repercussions across both the U.S. and world economies. The model suggests that the U.S. would have to stabilize the long-term debt trajectory before the debt to GDP ratio hits 200%, which would happen in or around the year 2043. This, however, is an optimistic best-case scenario. The point of no return could come much sooner when the debt to GDP ratio hits 175% if there's a loss in confidence in the federal government's ability to manage their debt. In that scenario, bond yields would need to rise continuously in order to attract buyers for government debt. This could potentially trigger a vicious cycle whereby as borrowing costs increase, so does the debt burden. High interest rates could in turn precipitate a global financial crisis. And if lenders were to anticipate this crisis, they would demand even higher interest rates earlier as a risk premium, which could potentially hasten the downward spiral of financial collapse. According to the study, the only way to avert this crisis is to both raise taxes and cut spending before the fiscal outlook reaches a crisis level. Here's what it had to say, quote, "To avert this crisis, significant policy interventions are required, including tax increases and reductions in federal spending. However, these measures must be implemented proactively and not as a last-minute response," close quote. In short, kicking the can down the road in terms of fixing our long-term fiscal instabilities is no longer a viable option. Permanent solutions that stabilize the debt outlook have to be put in place right now, not 20 years from now when the crisis is already upon us. And in what form are those fixes likely to appear? Higher federal taxes and lower spending. What kind of spending cuts? The federal government will have to fundamentally reform Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid in the next 20 years, or we will slip into a spiral of ever-increasing interest rates that will destroy our economy and send shockwaves throughout the global community. So what is a retirement planner like me doing opining on this type of stuff? Well, what does it have to do with your IRA and 401k? Well, everything. You see, according to the study and a host of other experts, raising federal taxes will be an inevitable part of the solution to our nation's debt problems. It's inescapable. How high will taxes likely have to go to solve our debt crisis? According to former Comptroller General of the federal government, David Walker, tax rates will have to double. And to avoid the type of calamity I previously mentioned, they'll have to double by 2030. If they delay past 2030, taxes will have to go even higher. So if you have the lion's share of your retirement savings in tax-deferred investment vehicles like 401ks and IRAs, that means you haven't paid any taxes on those assets. You got a deduction on those contributions at historically low tax rates and have deferred the payment of those taxes until a point in the future when tax rates will likely be dramatically higher than they are today. So you could have $1 million in your IRA, but unless you can accurately predict what tax rates are going to be when you take that money out, you don't really know how much money you have, and it's pretty hard to plan for retirement if you don't know how much money you have. So what's the solution? You need to build a plan that helps you systematically reposition those tax-deferred assets to tax-free alternatives like Roth IRAs and Roth 401ks. In short, a Roth conversion is likely the very best tool in your tax-free arsenal to shield yourself from the coming tax apocalypse. You want to shift those dollars slowly enough that you don't rise into a tax bracket that gives you heartburn, but quickly enough that you get all the heavy lifting done before tax rates go up for good. By the way, I wouldn't wait until 2043 before you start thinking about beginning your asset shifting program. I'd begin right now while tax rates are on sale. It's impossible to predict exactly when tax rates could rise dramatically, so I'd recommend taking advantage of the next 7 years between now and 2030 to get your shifting program fully executed. And every year that you postpone taking advantage of historically low tax rates is potentially a year beyond 2030, when you could be forced to pay the highest tax rates you're likely to see in your lifetime. If you would like some help implementing a balanced, comprehensive approach to tax-free retirement that shields you from the impact of higher taxes, head on over to davemcknight.com and click on the Connect with an Advisor button. I'm happy to refer you to an advisor in the Powers Zero network that has been trained, vetted, and qualified personally by me. If you're a financial professional and want to learn how to become a certified Power Zero advisor, head over to powerzero.com and opt into my free video series. And if you have any comments or questions, feel free to drop them into the comment section below. I'll respond to every single one of them personally. And don't forget to click like, subscribe, and the bell so you never miss a video. This is David McKnight. I look forward to seeing you on the next video.